Hey, how's it going, everybody? Jeremy Donson here with thedrumprofessor.com. Today we're going to be doing Holy Wars by Megadeth. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. And if you need any help with this, let me know. There are some challenging and very fast parts to this song. So any help you need, that's why I'm here, is to help you learn the drums. So I'm looking forward to it. And if you haven't taken advantage of the free live one-on-one drum lesson with me, definitely do so. We can go over whatever you want, whether you're beginner or advanced or expert, doesn't matter. We can go over anything you like. All right, here we go. Let's get started. All right, so at the very beginning of this, you're going to have 2 counts of 8. So whenever the guitar is going da-da-da, 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 you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, start. So it's very easy to start a little off, and I'm sure if you've tried this song already on your own, you have experienced that it's easy to come in a little early or a little late. So there's something in music called subdividing, and subdividing means basically if, for example, using a rest meaning that you just don't play. So if you're using a rest and you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you can count in subdivision, which means you're going to do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and it helps make sure that you don't speed up or slow down your counting. So you could also count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and start. That'll help you make sure you're on time even more. But once you have gotten it on time where you start on time, the fill is going to go like this at the beginning. And then you stop there and we switch to the snare there. So basically you're doing dig-a-dut, 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 dig-a-dut. 1 EN, 2 EN, 3 EN, 4 EN, 1 EN, 2 EN, 3 EN, 4 EN, like so. Now the sticking of this, sticking as in which stick do you use and why, you can do right hand lead every time if you want. Or you can alternate, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Either way is fine. Whichever way you want to do it is completely good to go. Now I will say that if you're having trouble getting the timing down on those fills, if you do right hand, and you watch me right hand, it never changes. Watch, I'll just do it on the snare only. My right hand never stopped. It never changed, right? So we're doing it slower, right hand lead every time. So that'll help if you need help with that timing, because your right hand's like your metronome. It never changes. It never speeds up or slows down on that section. Okay, so you're going to do it 3 times. You're going to do it twice all the way through. And then on the third one, on the mid tom here, you're going to do 6 snares after that, right? So just like so. So to do it slower, one more time, and then go into the beat. And there you have it. All right, now, starting on that crash, going into the beat, here we go. What we're going to do at the beginning, now this is a very fast and fairly complex beat, but just to break it down, it's like an onion. There's different layers to this. So there's what's called ghosting, where you don't hit it as hard. A lot of drummers I know, nothing against them, I mean, not a problem at all, but a lot of people that I've seen play it like this. Right? No dynamic contrast. In other words, not controlling how loud and soft the snares are. If you listen to the song, you hear the differences between the loud dynamics and the soft dynamics on the snare drum. So if you haven't done that yet, take a second and listen to that first. So after listening to that, you'll hear 3 different accent combinations in each set that he does. So the first one is like this. And before we continue, if this is something that's just really holding you up, don't just get stuck on the dynamics here. Just play it. What I would do is play it first, however you can, and then you can always go back and go over those accent versus non-accent notes. Okay, so the first one is going to go like this. So to break that down, you have, we'll just start on the hi-hat instead of the crash, but you're going to go bass and bass, snare, bass to start it. So bass and bass, snare, bass. Now, if you need help with the bass drum right after the snare, then just email me, jeremy@thedrumprofessor.com, and I'll help show you how to do that. There's techniques to do that at this speed that'll really help you a ton with that. So if you need help with that, let me know. All right, so doing it again, bass, bass, snare, bass, bass and bass, snare, bass, and that accent comes on that bass and bass, snare, bass, that first snare right there. Now the next part, bass and bass, snare, bass and snare, bass, bass, snare. So the snare basically is on beats 2 and 4. You have 1 ghost in between the hi-hat and the bass drum. So it's going to go and ghost note being soft, and ghost, bass, bass, snare, and ghost, bass, bass, snare. Like so. Now, after that accent, here's what comes next. So bass and bass, snare, bass, and snare, bass, bass, snare, and snare, bass. Another ghost at the end going and ghost, bass. Now, let's take this from the beginning and break it down into different chunks and then put it together slowly and then go over the second one. So we have bass and bass, snare, bass, first part. Bass and bass, snare, bass. Once you get that, next part is and ghost, bass, bass, snare. So bass and bass, snare, bass, and ghost, bass, bass, snare. Now again, if ghosting is harder, then just go and snare, bass, bass, snare instead of and ghost, bass, bass, snare. It's fine. Right? But if you want to do it truly to how the drummer does it, you got to do a ghost note there. So one more time. At the end, you're going to go and ghost, bass. And meaning hi-hat by itself. So and ghost, bass. All right, so the whole thing together. Okay, now, the second time you go through this, you're going to do 3 crashes, and every time you do 3 crashes. So first one, starting at the beginning, after the 6 snares and going into it. So you do the same beat again, but the second time you add the crashes. So bass, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare, snare, bass, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, bass, crash. On the normal snare where it goes and snare, bass, bass, snare, that's the snare that you crash on. So and it's going to be 3 crashes, first with the snare, next 2 with the bass drum. So snare, bass, bass on that section. And there we have that. Now, the second set, let's talk about the accents and ghost notes in this second one. So on the second section, the last ghost that I hit in the measure is now going to be accented. So for example, here's the normal first section. Here's the second one. So we accent that first, that last note, the last snare in that measure. So in other words, instead of going bass, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare, ghost, we do an accent there. Bass, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare, snare, boom, right? So, and that's the second one. So you just accent that last one. All right, so now we know where that second set accent goes. Everything else is the same. So let's put both together now. So starting on the snare fill and then going into the crash. So this last section, you're going to accent at the very end, right before the crash, right before you do the 3 crashes. So it's going to go like this. So it's both of those are accents. So the normal snare is where you do, right? We're doing what was the ghost note right before that. That's now accented. So. Before it was now it's accented. Now obviously the higher your stick goes, the louder your accent's going to be, and the lower it is, then the softer it's going to be. It just comes natural. I mean, if you raise your stick this high, it's going to be really hard to hit loud. If you raise it this high, it's going to be challenging to play it soft, right? So, whenever you're going to do the ghosts, and again, this is something that takes a lot of practice to really get this down and master it, but you don't need to raise your stick whenever you're going to do a ghost note, because from here to here does nothing for you. So if you just drop it, it naturally bounces back up as long as you're not killing the stroke, and it stays on the snare. So if you just kind of drop it, or feels like you're dropping it, there's no need to raise when you do that. So that'll be a huge help, and there's techniques to help with that that'll make you get it down way faster. So if you need help with these challenging accent versus non-accent combinations, let me know and we can certainly go over them. All right, very good. So now that gets us into the next section once we finish that. So just doing it again, the third section. Now, after that, that's our next part. Okay, so we got now. So the way we're going to do this, before we hit the tom, you're going to do the normal start of the beat, and then 2 hi-hats after the snare. So basically go to the normal snare, and then 2 hi-hats. Then you start your 4 toms. So to slow that down a bit, you start normal, crash and bass snare, 1, 2, then 4 toms. So you're going to do floor tom 4 times, and then again 4 times. So it's right. Now the next section, you're going to do bass crash with the snare, bass crash, and that last crash is with the bass drum. So bass crash, bass crash. Now the way you're going to do this part is you're going to do what's called a 6-tuplet here and on your second tom. Then you split 2 on each tom here. So 6, 6, 2, 2. If you don't have 4 toms, then just double these up, or you can do 6, 6, 4 instead if you want to. So in other words, if you only have a 5-piece, you're doing 6, 6, 4, like so. Like that. Now, but doing it with the way I have it set up, it's 6, 6, 2, 2, triple kick, and then flam. Now, if you don't have a triple kick, do a double kick with 1/5. But if you do have a double kick, then you want to do the triple. Okay, so putting it together now. Now that's really quick too. How fast he's playing this is very, very, very quick. So at tempo. Now, after you get to the flam, that's really quick, man. But that's a fun fill. I love playing that. After you get to the flam, then it's crash, 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 and you'll hear the band going with that, so you can't mistake the rhythm of the crashes there. All those crashes are with bass, and then you're back into it. All right, so this is super fun. There's a ton more in this song, but I hope this was very helpful for you. And if you have any questions, as always, don't hesitate to ask. It's why I'm here, especially with the accent and non-accent contrast with the dynamics and the subdividing to come in on time and the double or triple kick, getting your speed up on the tom. I mean, there's tons of things we can work on. All those things I just mentioned, I help my students with every single week because it takes a lot of work and really knowing how to practice it and how to get better at it. So again, I hope this is very helpful, and be sure to have fun, stay awesome, and rock on. Thanks, guys.